Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Sunday gathering. Hope you're all doing well. I see a bunch of you already in the chat. I saw Hound Jog up there, Linda Connor, Big Boy, B. Murph, Julia Thomas. Good morning to y'all. Gerald, Southern Belle, Kelsey, Rick Bowser, and Tanda. Good morning to all of you guys. It's good to have you. Hope you guys had a great week. I'm doing pretty good. I got something on my mind. I hope it doesn't distract me from what we're doing this morning, but we should be good. You ever have that? You know what I'm talking about when you lose something that's important and you're trying to find it, and it's really, you can't stop thinking about it until you find it or figure it out. That's where I am in my head right now. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm fine, Linda. Linda, you found an awesome job. I'm really glad to hear that. I had been meaning to ask you about that. So it's good that you are enjoying it so far. I'm really happy about that. We've got others here looking for jobs too. I know B. Murph is still looking for a job. He mentioned that last week on our live stream. So please continue to pray for that. Linda, you dry wet dogs? That's a good job. That's an assembly line. Just crank them on through, huh? Dry them off and send them out. Oh, man. Kelsey, you say you're in an interview process right now. That's great. That is great. I hope it goes well. I just realized I got to do something. I don't have my titles running. I got to get that set up. While I'm doing that, you guys, please go ahead and put any topics in the chat that you are interested in, and we will start to consider those today. All right, let's see here. Oh. That was great. There we go. Titles are up. All right. All right. Linda Connor, you said the Book of Giants. I'll put that on here. Linda Connor, Book of Giants. Oh, my titles are messed up still. That's crazy. There we go. I think, Kelsey, you mentioned here the Dean Odell Facebook posts. I don't know about his Facebook posts. What did he post? I am curious, though. Maybe I'll look it up here real quick and see if I can figure out what he posted. Please, guys, don't forget to put topics in there while we're doing other things here. Let's see. I don't even know if I've ever gone to Dean Odell's page. I don't even see his page. Hold on. Let's see here. Dean Odell Ministries. Of course, when you search, this is interesting, guys, when you search on Facebook, or when I did, for Dean Odell, the Dean Odell Ministries page is not shown in the results by default. It shows two other things, one of which is a page on Facebook that is dedicated to debunking Dean Odell. So the actual Dean Odell Ministries was the third link, and it was not shown on the page. I had to say show all results to see Dean Odell's actual page. Shows you where Facebook sits on all this. So I guess I could show that on my screen if I find it here. I guess this is Dean Odell's page, his ministry page. I'm assuming maybe you guys are talking about this. Is that what you're talking about, Kelsey? Oh, you say he made a post that if you believe Jesus came back in 70 AD, that you're a heretic. And he's going on to do a sermon correcting it. Oh, wow. Oh, there it is. There it is. Do you see that on the screen? There it is. It was just down one. Anyone who teaches that Jesus Christ came in 70 AD and that we are either in the either in or past the 1,000-year millennial reign of Jesus Christ is a false teacher. Yeah. I think, here's something I've noticed about Dean Odell. I didn't know much about Dean Odell till this past year, and then this flat earth debate came up, and that happened. Even in the flat earth debate, I noticed sometimes he still leans on like a gut feel. And I think in this case is doing the same thing. He's responding without thinking, without knowing anything about it. I would be really interested to see his sermon on this topic. And if it's, I can honestly debunk it most likely. So that might be a fun little thing to do, fun little exercise. But yeah, that's kind of sad. It's got lots of thumbs ups and hearts. 579. Yeah. Oh, man. I don't know if I want to read through any of these, but this is that might be something I'll do this afternoon when I'm sitting here with nothing else to do. That's interesting. Thank you, Kelsey, for mentioning that. I'm glad to know about that. Yes, Perusia. Good morning, my heretics. Squiffy Bear, good morning to you too. Rafa, it's good to see you this morning. Let's see here. I don't want to miss any of y'all's comments. Let's see. Big boy, you say you have a question. Maybe chat can answer if the topics are full. If you have 20 minutes to sit before a governor and influence him, what would you say? It's urgent. Oh, wow. Huh. That's an interesting, big boy. I want to do it. Let's do it. I can at least tell you what I think I would say, and that's off the cuff. Man, that's amazing if you're getting that opportunity. That I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, that you have this opportunity and you want to know what you should talk about. That's amazing. I can talk about that a little. I don't mind. I think that's great. All right. Rafa, you ask... Rafa Sieber, that's incredible. Okay, so you guys can see on your screen, Rafa Sieber asks, what are your thoughts on reincarnation? I don't think it's biblical, but a lot of testimonies out there. Now, Rick Bowser, you talked to me about this topic just yesterday, so we're going to do reincarnation. It's on the list already. I had put it on there this morning, so that's pretty, pretty inspired. That's cool, guys. So we'll definitely do reincarnation. I'll show you what I've got on it. Yeah, I'm excited that happened, that you said that, Rafa. That's pretty cool. Rick Bowser, you say that Dean Odell is going to end up going the way of Greg Locke. Well, I sure hope that that's not true. I hope that doesn't happen. Squiffy Bear, the story of Jonah as allegory, parable, or history. Okay, let's do that. I like that. Let's see what else you guys did here. You know, it's funny. That Dean Odell thing, how he calls people essentially a heretic. You know, I find it interesting. I'm learning a little bit about, quote, heresies and heretics because of my study on the Council of Nicaea. And it's interesting that the Greek word, I'm gonna say it wrong, but it's like heresoi or something like that. That's the word they used for a sect or a group that had their own belief system. Not necessarily a wrong one, but it was the word used for a sect, like we would say sect. And that's what it's translated into many times in the scriptures in the New Testament. But the Greek word behind the word sect is the word that is the root of heresy. So it's interesting. It's interesting. And by the way, the Christians are called a sect in the New Testament. So that word applies across the board. It's interesting. I'm just giving you little tidbits there. All right. All right. Let's see. I'm getting behind now. Good morning, Raina Waddell. It's good to see you. Grace Bear Annie, good morning to you. Stacia, good to see you. Oh boy, all right. Let's go. Selene, good to see you. And Chris Chi, good morning. Laura Masood. Laura Masood, you give me a topic here. What should our attitude be as we watch the destruction of our society? Oh, on one hand, it's a judgment from God, but on the other hand, how are we supposed to live? Let's see, Laura. I'll put that on. Rick Bowser, you say change your live date. What does that mean? Is that to me? I don't understand if that's to me. Raina Waddell, you've missed all the stuff with Dean Odell. Yeah, Raina, we were just talking about that Dean Odell posted a post on Facebook that said that anyone who believed that Christ already came was a false teacher, a heretic, essentially. So interesting. Okay. Oh, thank you, Rick. I get what you're saying now. Sorry, it takes me a second. I'm a little dense. This is not February 25th. It is, however, March 3rd. It might be 3/3/2024. Yikes. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks, Chris G. I'm a little slow sometimes. Tanda, you say David Carrico claims that preterism is traced back to a book in 1614 by Luis del Alcazar, a Spanish Jesuit theologian. Have you ever come across that name? Yes, Tanda, I have. Let me show you this real quick. Let's get this up here. In regards to Luis Alcazar, if you go to my channel, view my channel, you can search on my website too, but just type in here, Luis. Did Luis Alcazar start preterism? This video I did will answer your questions from my perspective. So I just wanted to show you that. I did do a full video on this and how I do not believe that he was the, quote, start of preterism. But what happened in brief was that Alcazar and another person, I'm going to misspeak his name, Francisco Ribera, they were both Jesuits. And at the same time, the Jesuit order commanded them, I believe, to go out and make two different narratives about eschatology that would draw people's attention away from the Catholic Church, because in this time period of the Protestant Reformation, all the reformers thought that the Pope and the Catholic Church was the beast of Revelation. Okay? And so they were doing damage control, as far as I'm concerned. Alcazar decided to try to put some things in the past. He wrote his. It was not even, if you examine his, it's not real preterism. It's just talking about those things happening in the past that had to do with the beast. And then the other guy, Ribera, he pushes everything into more of a future type view and essentially says that, no, the Catholic Church is not the beast in Revelation. So they both were doing damage control for the Catholic Church at the same time. But I have this video that goes over all the details there and shows the texts and everything else. So I hope that's helpful. Okay. Chris G, you say Eusebius was among the earliest preterists. Armored Raven, good morning to you, sir. It's good to have you. All right. Well, let's do my quick announcements and a little prayer. Just so you're aware right now, here is what we've got as topics. Rick Bowser and Rafa, you guys both mentioned reincarnation. We're going to do that. Linda Connor, you asked about the Book of the Giants. And then Big Boy, you asked, if I had 20 minutes to sit before a governor and influence him, what would I say? That's a really interesting question. Then Squiffy Bear, the story of Jonah as an allegory, parable, or history. And then Laura Masood, how should we live in a society that's being destroyed around us? That's really good topics to talk about. And I will definitely lean on you guys a little bit. I'll obviously give you what I think. And I encourage you to put your thoughts on these things as we go through them in the chat. So as far as what we do here, for those who might be new, everyone is welcome on the Bible Scribe live streams. As long as we can be civil with each other, we can disagree, but we can't attack. If there's attack, it's going to be shut down. And so you're all welcome, though. Even if you disagree with everything I say, you're totally welcome here. What do? I've had you guys already suggesting topics. So you guys suggest the topics, and every week I take them live. I try to do my best with them on the fly, with very little preparation, if any. And we just do our best, and we have fun with that. And then you guys in the chat, you add to that with what you say, and I try to respond very quickly to what I see in the chat. So that's what we do. I'm going to also change the order around just to make sure things flow smooth. And then again, I want that discussion that we always have here, and it's so fun to see you guys' comments as well. So you're totally aware, I'm on many platforms. I have a website, bible-scribe.com. I also am on YouTube and Rumble. That's my main video platforms. Although I do some work on BitChute as well. I'm on Telegram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Truth Social. I do have a Twitter feed. If you want to join that, you're welcome to follow it. I'm trying to figure out how I can integrate that as well into everything I do here. You can always contact me very easily, and you can just go to my website. There's a contact page which just lists my email address, and it's biblescribe@proton.me. So it's easy to email me if you need to, if you want to. I also try to be pretty responsive with those based on the time I have. And then I think that's it. What's new with me? I wish I could give you guys more of the, hey, here's what's new. I did spend some time this week for one viewer in particular who I've had some conversations with, trying to figure out if there's any connections between the Essenes of the Dead Sea Scroll, Qumran caves, and what they call the Way in the New Testament, and the Nazarenes, which was essentially a sect or a cult that came out of Judaism. And if there's any connection there to Christ, because he was called Jesus of Nazareth or the Nazarene. And I did a lot of research on that. and I came to a conclusion that I didn't see the connections that I was that were proposed to me. So I kind of put it aside after hours of work, but I did spend a good bit of time on that. The other thing, of course, that I spent a ton of time on was this. I'm starting to get the graphics and everything ready for my video, my first video on the Cataclysm of Rome, that has to do with the Council of Nicaea and what happened with they call it a schism, but the divide between mostly the Eastern Church, Apostolic Church, and the Western Church, which was based out of Rome, and the different clashes they had that led up to the Council of Nicaea, and what effect that had on Christianity and the Catholic Church and everything else. So that's the first video. It's on its way. I'm trying to get now all the materials kind of in the format that the video needs, and then I'll edit the video down. Could happen this week. Could be another couple weeks on it. I appreciate your patience with that. It's not, there's so much information. It's daunting, but I'm trying to chisel down to all of it, through all of it. I'm about there with the first video. I'm about there. So feeling good about that. Good morning to you, Drudge Jed. I just saw you join there. It's good to have you guys. All right. With that, I want to reemphasize, as I always do, the importance of prayer. I want you guys to pray for me and pray for each other. So we're about to pray to kick off the meeting this morning. And as we do so, or you're thinking about it, if you have a prayer request, please put it in the chat. I will take note of those after the fact, and I usually take them to our prayer group, and then we pray for that during the week. So I appreciate that, and I hope that that's a blessing to you guys. But it is a blessing to me. Just to know people are praying for me is huge in what we're doing here, and just gives me motivation to keep it going, keep doing the good work. So I appreciate you guys so much. All right, with that, let's bow wherever you are, and let's have a quick word of prayer to get started. Thank you. Lord God, my Father in heaven, I so appreciate you and what you've done for me and the ability you've given to be able to do this with all these wonderful people this morning. I just pray that you open our hearts and minds to the truth that you have for us. And I rely on the Bible that was so carefully written based on from men that were humble before you. And you are amazing. And I just pray that this morning goes well, that the topics are helpful to all those on the live stream and those who will watch this week. Lord, you bring hundreds now to see these videos each week and enjoy the discussion. I thank you so much for that. And I pray for them as well. Pray for everyone on this call. Give us strength and give us truth. We love you, Father. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. Okay, here we go. Let's see what our first topic is today. All right, let me put the topics up. I'm going to reorder them real quick because some of these kind of match each other. Reincarnation, Book of Giants, Jonah. Let's see here. I think I sort of did already. I kind of like this order. I think I kind of ordered this right before we did all that. So we're going to start with Reincarnation. We'll go to the Book of Giants, then Jonah, and then Big Boy's question and Laura Masood's questions kind of, to me are similar. Like they're more societal issues and things that we're all thinking about because of what's going on in our world. So we'll do all that. So let's get started then with Reincarnation. Try to do this one first. And let's put it up on the board. Okay, that didn't work. Reincarnation. I'm going to say, is reincarnation real? All right. Yeah. Okay. So reincarnation. Here's the deal. I did do a little research on this a while back. And I got some books. I got some stuff. I did some research. So I do know a little bit about reincarnation. Not a whole lot, but I think enough. So let me do this. I kind of put my notes over here this morning, so I'll be ready for this, because Rick Bowser talked to me about this yesterday. Mentioned it to me, and I thought, well, we'll probably do that. So, let's see here. Where do I want to start? So when I thought of reincarnation originally, and I thought, man, I want to know about reincarnation, like the real thing. I don't want anyone telling me about reincarnation. I want to read it in the original books. So what I did was I got these books. I got the Upanishads. These are Vedic writings from India. I got the Bhagavad Gita, all right? Because I was like, I want to know what in the world reincarnation's all about. Did they really believe in it? So let me do this real quick. I hope you guys are okay with me just reading a little bit. It won't be much, but it does speak of this, or somewhat, in these books. So let's do this. I'm going to read you just a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita and what it says about what they say is reincarnation. Okay? All right. Oh, wait. That's not the one I want to start with. I want to start with the Upanishads. My bad. All right. And I think... All right. Sorry, I'm trying to find it so that... I want to read it to you from the horse's mouth. That's what I wanted to do, and I'm having a hard time here. Hold on. 54 to 56. Oh, okay. That's too far. There we go. Okay. All right, here's some of it. Let's see. According unto his, this is the actual writing of the Upanishad, translated for English. According to his deeds, the embodied one successively assumes forms in various conditions, coarse and fine, many in number. The embodied one chooses forms according to his own qualities. Each subsequent cause of his union with them is seen to be because of the quality of his acts and of his self. Some go into a womb for the embodiment of a corporeal being. Others go into a stationary thing according to their deeds, according to their knowledge. Now, in this case, this sounds like it's talking about the incorporeal body, the spirit going into things which are not, that are, like a rock or a tree, while others may go into a body, a human body. Now, the problem is there's not much context given with this little section of writing, so there's a whole lot of exegesis in this book. As you can see, like, this is the writing. This 2 lines here is the writing, and then there's a paragraph of them telling you what they think it means, and then there's a couple more lines and a couple more things. There's a lot of exposition in this book. It's not just a straight, just copy of the text. Let me see if I can find the next spot. Oh, I thought I was going to have it. I thought I had already seen this. It was going to be easier. My bad, guys. a little slow in getting here. Okay, let's see, 66 to 67. Yeah, okay. Here's another quick section. They who being without desire worship the person and are wise pass beyond the seed here. If a person knew the soul with the thought, I am he, with what desire for love of what would he cling unto the body? So this seems to be referring to that the soul and the body are separate. Okay? That's the basic foundation of what's being talked about here. Here's another. He who in fancy forms desires, because of his desires, is born here and there. So it's really hard to interpret what these passages are saying. Really hard. Let's see if there's any more in this one. And then I'll go to the Bhagavad Gita real quick. Let's see. Did I get it all? Yeah, we really did most of it in that of this whole book. That's all that there is. Do you see that? Of the 13 principal Upanishads, this whole book, that's all there is that they say is about reincarnation. There's no long explanation of, re-entering bodies and having past lives. None of that occurs. There's nothing about that in here. So to be quite frank with you, when I went to these writings, I was quite disappointed because there really wasn't... I didn't find what I was looking for in terms of what modern New Agers or reincarnationists believe in, right? That you live a life, or this life that you're in is one of many, right? And that when you die, based on how you acted in this life, like if you were a good person, you would go up the chain. You would be reincarnated as something or someone even better. Whereas if you acted poorly, you would go down the chain and be resurrected as someone worse or something worse, like a rock or a tree. But if you were able to continuously live good lives and rise the chain, that at some point you would become a Buddha, right? You become this enlightened form. You wouldn't actually be human anymore. Now that's what they teach in New Age, right? That you're going to ascend, based on, I don't know, what you figure out in this life, so to speak. Of course, all the people that follow these traditions, they essentially have crap lives, all right? And I hate to be blunt, but the people that really follow these teachings, they live lives of just misery. And so I would caution you, if you're interested in this kind of a belief system, but it's not, honestly, so far in the Upanishads, nothing real definitive on reincarnation at all. Now, when we come over to the Bhagavad Gita, let's go here to page 121. Okay. All right, let's see here. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, okay, here's what I had seen before. Now, it's a story. The Bhagavad Gita gives the information as a story of a man named Krishna, and there's another one. Arjuna is like the target of this writing. It's like the person getting the message of this writing. So here's the lines that have to do, according to the author, the editor, have to do with reincarnation. Sanjaya said, to him thus in compassion plunged, his eyes distraught and filled with tears, desponding Krishna spoke these words. Whence comes this faintness on you at this crisis hour? Till this ill becomes a noble. Wins none a heavenly state, brings dishonor, Arjuna. Let's continue on over here. Arjuna says, Krishna, how can I fight Bhishma and Drona in battle with my arrows? For they are worthy of respect. For better were it here on earth to eat a beggar's food than to slay teachers of great dignity. Were I to slay my teachers, ambitious though they may be, then I should be eating blood-sullied food. He says later on here, he says, should we kill them? If we kill them, we should hardly wish to live. So there's this discussion between Krishna and Arjuna about this battle that Arjuna is in, and he has to kill these other people. Now, here's what it says about anything at all relating to reincarnation is right here. Just as in this body the embodied self must pass through childhood, youth, and old age, so too at death, so to speak, it will assume another body. In this a thoughtful man is not perplexed. Okay, so now this section has projected or proposed that a person receives a different body after they die. Now, I don't understand how that is necessarily reincarnation. It seems like it's just proposing an afterlife. Here's the next. But contacts with the objects of sense give rise to heat and cold, pleasure and pain. They come and go, impermanent. Put up with them then, Arjuna. So Krishna's response is to deal with the fact that life is bad and that there is another life after you die. Now that to me does not say reincarnation, that says afterlife. So it's just very sketchy, and I can keep going here. For wise men there are, the same in pleasure as in pain. When these contacts leave undaunted, such are conformed to immortality. Now, do you see what I'm talking about? When I read the actual text lines, it seems like it's talking about the afterlife. It's not necessarily seeming that it's talking about reincarnation of any sort. So I'm going to leave that and set that down now because I could go further. There's a few more things, but out of this whole, another 400 page book, 500 page book, there's only a select few pages that have anything, according to the editors, to do with reincarnation, okay? That's from the source religions for reincarnation, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, all right? So that was a disappointment to me when I went to those texts. I bought these books, spent my hard-earned money to learn about reincarnation, and there just wasn't much in them. So then I started looking around and learning more about it because I was like, why is it that the old texts don't seem to talk about the reincarnation aspect that we are talking about in the modern times, but that's what everyone says they say. I don't understand that. I can't explain that, honestly. So let's see if I can go here back to my notes. All right. So here's the stuff that I did find out about the idea of reincarnation. So I knew that Gnostics somewhat believed in reincarnation, or I thought they did. So here's what I looked up on this. When I looked at Gnostic websites, this is the newdawnmagazine.com. It says the Gnostic texts actually speak very little about reincarnation. Very little. We do, however, find some references in the Corpus Hermeticus, probably written in the 1st to 3rd centuries after Christ. And so we'll jump down here. It says the Hermetic texts speak of reincarnation, but not in the sense familiar with New Age versions of that doctrine. So even it's saying the Gnostic and Hermetic texts that talk about reincarnation, it's not like what people talk about today with past lives, multiple lives that you live out and try to earn your way to enlightenment. The Hermetic texts generally portray reincarnation as a punishment. One treatise tells that a person who dies childless is sentenced to a body that has neither a man's nature nor a woman's, which is accursed under the sun. And a text also known as the Asclepius says that those who live faithfully under God will ascend to become divine beings, but the unfaithful, it goes differently. Return to heaven is denied them, and a vile migration unworthy of a holy soul puts them in other bodies. Now, also, when I read this, I was thinking, well, that's not talking about reincarnation. That is the afterlife. Even a Christian would say, if you die and you are not a Christian, you have not followed the teachings of Christ and accepted who he was, all this, that you will ascend into heaven. You will attain a divine type of status, in a sense. You will become someone that goes up with the angels into heaven. And however, if you do not follow the guidance of our Lord and Savior, then you end up going into a other form down into Hades, right? And so this, to me, again, even from a Gnostic perspective, they seem to agree with afterlife, but I don't see anything that's talking about reincarnation as it's described by most people nowadays. So then I went a little further and I tried to figure out if there were any church fathers that believed in reincarnation. From what I saw, it looks like Origen said that the soul exists before birth. Well, honestly, I personally believe that, but not in a sense of a long period of time. But I know that the soul, from what I understand, especially from ancient Jewish writings, is put into the body at a specific time during pregnancy. So it obviously exists right before that. And from what I do understand also about those texts, that God, he creates those souls. God is the Lord of hosts in the ancient texts. The Lord of hosts. He creates spirits. He creates all spirit. And so it stands to reason your spirit is put into your body as it's being, produced in your mother's womb, essentially, is the way that the ancients talked about it. So I wouldn't argue with Origen on that your soul exists before birth. He suggested that the pre-existence was found in the Hebrew scriptures, etc., etc. Okay, so if that's the limit, that's the extent of what Origen taught apparently on reincarnation. It's not reincarnation, it's that your soul existed before you were born. Okay, then Clement of Alexandria, a disciple of the Apostle Peter, suggests that his master received secret teachings from Jesus. Now, this is kind of a legend or a myth that people kind of said, especially in the medieval period. You'll see down here is in the medieval period that the doctrine of the pre-existence and reincarnation existed as Jesus' secret teaching. But in the Second Council of Constantinople, now this is the council that happened after the Council of Nicaea in 533 or 553 AD, it wasn't actually talked about. The idea of reincarnation was not discussed in the council, but they denounced and expelled a number of bishops who were teaching reincarnation. So as you can see here, reincarnation was not officially rejected in the council, but the early church fathers who had been accused of teaching it in that time period, the 500s, they had their works banned. And so as far as this person was concerned, he says 553 AD, this council was the end of the debate or discussion on reincarnation in the Christian community. Now, there's something else you need to understand. The idea of reincarnation actually did come from somewhere. And I found where it came from. It came from the works of Plato. Now, Plato, of course, is a Stoic philosopher from Greek from hundreds of years before Christ. Let me see, what was his time frame? I don't remember. What was I want to know the years. Okay, so about 400 and something BC. 450 BC is when Plato was running around doing his things. Or excuse me, more like 400 BC. All right, but Plato, he taught reincarnation. Here's what Plato taught. He taught that human souls had previously existed in a perfect world and there enjoyed the presence of God. But somehow these souls committed a sin and fell from God's presence and were placed into physical bodies on earth as a punishment. The purpose of life, then, according to Plato, is to correct the soul's initial mistake and return to God. But this could only be done through the attainment of knowledge, and since God is omnipotent, Plato believed it was ridiculous to assume that one could gain enough knowledge in one lifetime. So remember, these are rationalists. Plato and these philosophers would reason everything out. So he would do things like say, well, if a person can't attain this knowledge of God in one lifetime, they would need multiples. It's a rational argument. There's no evidence of it. So it's the same thing they did with the globe, the spheres of the celestial spheres, the whole idea of the globe Earth and globe cosmology, infinite spheres that are within each other, on which the planets rotate and all this other stuff. That was all come up with in the mind of these Platonic and Stoic philosophers. It was absolutely a mental concept. It was never tested. It was never a part of physical observation. It just never was. So in the same way, reincarnation, according to Plato, was exactly that. It was a mental construct he'd come up with to explain how a person could possibly attain all the knowledge required to understand and return to God after death. And so he said they had to live multiple lives. And he also believed that the human body was a prison of punishment and that souls were on earth to gain a level of knowledge that would take more than a lifetime to learn. So he believed in reincarnation. He made it up, right? That's what he did. That's what I think is the truth. So now we've gone through all of it. To boil it all down, I think that the ideas that people are talking about today are mostly like what I see in Plato. They're mostly like Plato's idea of reincarnation. Multiple lives to try to attain godhood or attain back to God. Whereas when I went into these original texts, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, I don't see the reincarnation story narrative that people are floating today. I don't see it at all. And then we went to Christians, supposedly. We talked about Clement and Origen. By the which, Origen, I've never really liked Origen's work at all. He has a lot of issues as far as I'm concerned, but just to say that. So we saw those early Christians. We didn't really see anything about reincarnation with them, other than some myths and some legends that were put down by the Church Council in 553 AD. So that's the boil down. I think that the real ideas of reincarnation were mental constructs that Plato came up with and have had a resurgence, just like a lot of different Stoic philosophy has had a resurgence in modern Gnosticism and Luciferianism. And I believe there is no such thing as reincarnation. That's my verdict. All right. So it took me a minute to get there, didn't it? But I think we're there. So let me see what you guys are talking about. See if I've missed anything here. Rafa Sieber, you said what bothers you is all the testimonies around past lives. New Age is clearly a deception. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the past lives, I've listened to, testimonies of people that talk about their past lives and they're like, I know I was there, I can feel it, all this other stuff. I believe that is coming from demonic infestation. I really do. I don't see... None of it makes any sense. It doesn't make sense. There's no way to verify it. I believe those people are being led down a path by demons to which their lives, as I said in the beginning, the lives of the people that follow this stuff and live their lives based on it, their lives are garbage. Their lives are not good. And it's like they're not getting the benefits that they say they're getting out of it. They talk about it all day long. Oh, it's great. I'm enlightened. I feel so happy with myself. But in the end, it's hollow. There's nothing there. Just that they hope that by the end of this life, they're going to, attain a measure of goodness that will bring them back as something better in the next. Is that really going to make your life better here on earth? No, it truly doesn't. And so when I've heard the past life stories, what I feel like I've heard is demons using that information, giving people visions, giving people feelings, emotions, experiences to essentially ruin their lives. And it seems to do a good job, doesn't it? All right, what else? What else do you guys talk about? Y'all talked a lot. Armored Raven, thank you so much for saying what you said. I appreciate that. I hope I'm a blessing. Even when I can't find the stinking stuff in the books when I'm trying to look it up, Oh my gosh. Laura Masood, you say, it makes me think of familiar spirits that follow family lines. They can possess people and have many embodiments through the centuries. Yeah, that when we were reading part of that, yeah, I know what you're saying for sure. Yeah, Graced Bear, it is vague so that the reader can interpret, kind of how they want. And that's what I think that most of these writers, these editors of these books have done. They go at it thinking reincarnation in the modern sense. And then when they read those writings, they impose the reincarnation on it. They're like, ooh, it's talking about those who die are born. Well, the reality is that Jesus told Nicodemus that you need to be born into spirit. And when I first read Nicodemus's talk with Jesus, I felt like Jesus was saying that death was a birth. It was a new birth, so to speak, into the spirit. And so it's exactly what you said, Graced Bear Annie, that it feels in the original text, it feels too obscure to actually be said to be reincarnation in the way we talk about it these days. Yeah. Stacia, you said, does anyone ever notice that the Buddha statue is in the Baphomet position? Yes. Let's do that. Let's do that real quick. I want to see the Buddha. I got to see the Buddha. Oh, yes. Well, that one's that's like a modern one. I don't know. This one is a modern Buddha, I think. It's sort of doing the as above, so below thing. Is that what you're talking about? One hand up, one hand down? Yeah. It's definitely got the all-seeing eye in the forehead. Yeah. Interesting idea. Yeah, this one here does, but that's a clip art. I mean, I don't know who made this clip art, but let's do this. I spelled Buddha wrong. Buddha statue, China. I want to see a real one. Okay, here's a good one. That does look a little bit like the as above, so below. I'll give you that. Stacia, for sure. Is it Buddha or Baphomet? Nobody knows. That strikes a chord with me. I seem to remember something about when I was studying after the Dan Brown series. I was studying the Rosicrucians and the Crusaders and all of that, and that Baphomet was, some had said Baphomet had come out of the Crusaders, that they worshipped Baphomet. And I thought there was something in there about Buddha too, but I'm not going to be able to remember what it was. But there was some connection possibly between Baphomet and Buddha. That's interesting. I may tug on that thread, Stacia. That's kind of something I hadn't thought of. I don't know. It just struck me. I think that's true, though. I think that there was some connection, real connection between Baphomet and Buddha. Interesting. All right. Let me turn off Buddha. I don't want to promote Buddha. No Buddha. Buddha's bad. All right. Gerald, you said if we came back as trees and rocks, that might help with perceived environmental and governing problems, which we will discuss later topics. Yeah. Some people kind of deserve to be rocks, don't they? Chris G, you said that with Gnostics, you do have to achieve a certain state of gnosis or secret knowledge to ascend. Yes. Good morning, Sam Big. Good to see you on there. You agree with me. Their lives are bad. Yeah, to me, that's the New Age shtick, right? You go around telling everybody your life is great, but in the end, you're poor. You don't have anything going on because you have no motivation level. You live on like twigs and berries and crap, and I don't know. You rub poop in your hair. I mean, what the heck? Is that enlightenment? Come on. I don't want any part of that enlightenment. No way. Oh, goodness. Superfluity of naughtiness. You say my general conclusion of reincarnation is similar to how you view near-death experiences. Interesting. So you feel that near-death experiences are put upon people by spiritual forces, and you don't think they're real? Is that how you feel? Or am I getting that wrong? But anyway, that's kind of what you make me think when you say that. I don't know if that's what you're saying. Yeah, Armored Raven, the Templars. That's right. Not necessarily the Crusaders, but the Templars were. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right, Armored Raven. That's the connection. B. Murph, you say that Catholic depictions of Christ use the Baphomet stance too. Ooh, jeez. It's true. I mean, they hold up that right hand, don't they? I mean, I don't know. Squiffy, you say you think it's the Hindus that eat poop? I didn't say they ate it, but I know they put it in their hair because the cows are sacred. They're holy. So when they poop, it's good. You put it in your hair. You put it on your face. It's good for the skin. B. Nichols, it's good to have you this morning. I'm glad you joined. QB, it's good to see you too. You say near death maybe could be genetic memory thing. Yeah, I don't know. I have felt like near death experiences, a lot of them are very real. I'm not saying every single one, but a lot of them I think they do feel real to me. But who's to say? I'm not them. I didn't have the experience. All right. Terry Barnes, good morning to you. It's good to see you. All right, let's move to the next topic, which is Linda Connor. You asked about the Book of Giants. Now, Linda, if you're on, I'd like for you to post where you ran across the Book of Giants, because there's a few different writings that people might call the Book of Giants. Are you talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls? Let's see. Because there's a few portions of what people consider the books of Enoch. They call one the fragment of Noah and all these other things. Some of them were pulled out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay, you say yes. So I'm gonna try to find that writing. Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay. Whoop. So here it's. If I go to my website here, show it on the screen. So the Book of Giants is actually not just a book. They call it the Book of Giants out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's a combination of a bunch of different fragmented manuscripts, okay? It's each of these numbers, 1Q, 2Q, 4Q, those are the caves of Qumran. So this fragment of the manuscript, 1Q23, was the 23rd manuscript found in the first cave of the Qumran caves. Okay, and then the second fragment is from cave number 2, then a couple from cave 4, and one from cave 6. So that's where these fragments, that when you put them all together, combined, and they called it the Book of Giants. Okay, so don't get confused. There's no book out there somewhere that says Book of Giants across it, and that is what we're talking about. No. When they went through, sorted all these tons of fragments of papyri from these caves that were in jars in different caves in Qumran, they pulled them out, sorted them, and then read them, did their best to translate what was there, and based on what they saw, they then collected some of them together. They called this grouping the Book of Giants. Okay, so I just wanted to be real clear how they do that stuff. It's not rocket science. And there's no book out there that is called the Book of Giants, okay? Just these fragments that are scrolls from the caves of Qumran. So as you can see on your screen, I'll make it, and this is on my website, by the way. If you go to, on the home page, on just under all the video stuff, topics for research, I have Dead Sea Scrolls. And then just right up at the top, because it starts in the first cave of Qumran, where did it go? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Man, my eyes. I don't know. Right here under Cave 1, the Book of Giants. So that's how I got here. But it's on my website. You can read all of this for yourself. We can kind of read through some of this. Some of it's a little more helpful than other parts. But you can see, too, I want you to notice how fragmented some of it is. When you have these square brackets, it means that whatever is inside the brackets was not actually visible on the page, or it was obscured or ripped off, like it was, because it's such fragmented pieces of papyrus. So in the instance right here, they know there was something there that's missing, and then they think it was the beginning of the word sin because they saw the N at the end of the word. And based on their understanding of the context, they added the SI to make it the word sin. So this is how fragmented this is. So really here, the words of this first fragment, they knew the secrets of something. They felt like it said sin was great in the earth, and they killed many, and they begat giants. There's just these little snippet fragments of, it's not even a sentence, right? And then, they actually added the words they begat here, right? Because that's in the square brackets. So it's a best guess based on either the page was ripped, they only saw half of the letters, or whatever. They think it said they begat giants, okay? Then in this 4Q 531 fragment 3, earth produced, and then something, the great fish, something, the sky with all that grew, fruit of the earth and all kind of grain and trees, beasts and reptiles, creeping things of the earth. They observed all, every harsh deed, male and female among humans. So you can make a lot of assumptions based on what this has. I could assume that it's saying that even the earth produced maybe all these different good things, but then perhaps harsh deeds and things happened, and I don't know, every male and female. Perhaps this is talking about before the flood when all the earth was wicked. Those are assumptions, but this is what's here. Fragment 1 and 6 from 1Q23. Donkeys, 200 asses, 200 rams, 200 goats. So this sounds a lot like for miscegenation. I believe this is talking about the genetic mutability that they experimented with before the flood. So in this section, it does look like it's talking about something, maybe the giants collecting beasts, animals, flocks, so they can then mess around with them genetically and mix them up and do all sorts of weird stuff. Who knows? I don't even want to imagine what that is. In this fragment, they defiled something, 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 giants and monsters, something, something, begot, and behold, the earth was corrupted with its blood and by the hand of, they think it says giants, which did not suffice for them, and something, they were seeking to devour many. The monsters attacked it. So what is this exactly talking about? I don't know. It sounds amazing, but it's hard to know exactly what the narrative is here. There's apparently blood happening, fighting, devouring, monsters attacking. We know from the books of Jasher and Jubilees that there was cannibalism involved with the giants, so this makes sense in regards to that. Let's just skim some of this. I don't want to take too much longer on it. They lifted the tablet from the water. I don't know what this is. The whole group of castaways I shall go to, complaining about their killers. Entered for my dwelling, the vision, entered into the gathering of the giants. Okay, so it's amazing. Actually, I wish we did have these writings full, because it sounds amazing. Whatever is here, it sounds like it's describing some events that happened before the flood. And I really wish we had more of a record, but we just don't. And this sounds like it could be, these could be the names of giants, Ohia and Mawe. Before Mawe had finished telling what he had seen, he said to him, "Now I have heard wonders if a barren woman gives birth." Something interesting there. I don't know what the story is. Here's more about Ohia. Something about the earth being destroyed, it looks like, and they wept before the giants. So maybe they knew what was coming. I don't know. It's interesting. He answered, "It is not for us, but for Azazel," which sounds like Azazel. "For he did blah, blah, blah. The children of angels are the giants, and they would not let all their loved ones be neglected." So this is about, of course, the same narrative. Angels, Azazel, the giants, and the proclamation of God through Enoch to the angels was that they would watch their children die. Do you remember that in the book of Enoch? So God tells Enoch to tell the watchers, "You have been judged. You will watch your children kill each other." And so that was part of it. The sword came to the Nephilim, the descendants of these angels. Here, "I'm a giant by the mighty strength of my arm and my great strength. I have made war against the mortals," essentially, "but I'm not able to stand because my opponents reside in heaven. They dwell in the holy places." So he's lamenting because he can kill anyone he wants on earth, but his apparently he sees his enemies as being in heaven, God, the angels, whatsoever. Now it actually mentions the name Gilgamesh, and so that does tie this writing to the Sumerian texts, Epic of Gilgamesh, etc. in some way. We don't know exactly how. I'm trying to be very honest with you about this, because I feel like people add so much to these writings, just like we were seeing with the reincarnation thing. I don't want to add anything, but I do see Gilgamesh is literally in the text, the word Gilgamesh. So it seems like that is a good connection between this and the Epic of Gilgamesh, Sumerian writing. And that again destroys the secular narrative that the Sumerian writings and the Epic of Gilgamesh and everything like that were so ancient compared to the Bible. Well, we just see right here that in fragments of parchments and papyri that were part of the Bible, part of the scriptures, it included the Epic of Gilgamesh as a reference, or Gilgamesh. So you know that it wasn't that ancient and it wasn't seen as that prior to the Bible. So, secular scholars say whatever they want, but this is the reality of what we're seeing here. Let me just skim and see if there's anything else. Another mention of Gilgamesh. There's a vision they have of gardens and etc. To Enoch, the noted scribe, he will interpret for us the dream. So see, there's actually a dialogue here between Enoch and the Nephilim, it seems like. And this is the role that Enoch played on earth while he was here. So Enoch does interpret their dreams according to this text. Let's see. Yeah, and there's just not too much. The inhabited world and passed over desolation. This is all part of, I think, the vision, the interpretation they're giving. So it's not going to help us too much. Now, Simjaza, that's one of the angels that's mentioned in the book of Enoch. Licentiousness, when the angels came down to their wives and had sons. Until Raphael arrives, behold destruction. Okay, so Raphael is one of the good seraphim around the throne of God. So that destruction is said to be coming upon these giants. Let me see, as we're finishing up through here, Linda, if there's anything else that you wanted to know about this. Yeah, I hope that it's helping for you to see it. You didn't ask any more specific questions, so it's very interesting. Let me see if there's anything else here that's notable. Behold, the ruler of heaven descended to the earth. The thrones were set, and the great Holy One sat. Now, this is an interesting thing that I do think is interesting. Look at this. Hundreds and hundreds were ministering to him, thousands and thousands. That's what it's talked about when it's talking about God and the host of angels. Thousands upon thousands. And the book of Enoch says this, and other books say this. They stood before him. Who's him? The great Holy One, the ruler of heaven. Now, I believe that in this case, this is God the Father, the ruler of heaven. And behold, the books were opened, and a judgment was pronounced, and the judgment was written, a signature was signed. The Great One reigns over all living and over all those who rule, and flesh, and all those who rule. Here's the end of the dream. Okay, so this is still the interpretation of this dream of Oya and Mawa, these two apparently giants. So it's very interesting. But it does talk about God. The reason this is interesting to me is because it's judgment. It's God opening the books, and it's over all living and all of those who rule. Now that to me immediately always reminds me of Revelation chapter 20 with the great white throne judgment at the end of earth. That it will be God who opens the books. It's not necessarily Christ. You know, we've had that discussion a lot before about, is Jesus Christ coming in the end? And that's why when I read Revelation 20 and I see these writings, I've seen this a few different places. I'm thinking it's God because of the way it's described. But it's hard. There's not a lot of information there in Revelation 20, but just so you know, that's one of the reasons that I lean towards that being God in the end and not just Christ, although Christ may be there too. Anyway, all right. So let's see here. Yep. So Ohia, the giant, speaks and says, "My dream has depressed me, and the sleep of my eyes has fled because of looking at this vision. Behold, I know I cannot sleep and cannot hasten for them." Anyway, and then Gilgamesh said, which is interesting, and most of the word Gilgamesh was found in the text. That's interesting. It's another reference to Gilgamesh being one of these giants with Ohia and Mahawa, or whatever their names are. So I hope that's helpful. That's the Book of Giants. Okay, we went through most of it. There's other little tidbits that we may have skipped, but if you want to read through it yourself, it's right there on my website. As far as I know, this is the whole Book of Giants as far as they're concerned. And you can see how pieced together it is, but it is interesting information for sure. Very interesting. You're welcome, Miss Linda. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see what we've got next. The story of Jonah as allegory. Squiffy Bear. All right. Let's put that up. Is the story of Jonah allegory. All right. So let's do this. I don't think I'll beat this one to death, but what we'll do real quick is just search the Bible for Jonah. Because I want to make sure all the places it might be mentioned, but I think just, mainly the book of Jonah, and then that one mention. Let's see. Jonas. Yep, Jonas is also. Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. Let's go to Jonah real quick. We'll skim through. The word of the Lord. The word of the Lord. This is Jesus sent to Jonah before Jesus was human. Came to Jonah and said, "Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah rose up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord and went down to Joppa to a ship going to Tarshish. And he paid the fare and went into it. The Lord sent a great wind of the sea. And Jonah hid, and they drew lots. Decided we're going to throw him over the thing because this is the Lord's work and he is a Hebrew. We're throwing him over. And so they took up Jonah and cast him into the sea, and it ceased from raging. And the men then feared the Lord exceedingly and offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. And the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord, and out of the belly cried, "Thou hast cast me into the deep." Now that's an interesting phrase we're going to look at in just a second. Talk about it. "I am cast out of thy sight. The waters compassed me about, even to the soul." This sounds like, I'm just going to say, this sounds like the book of Psalms. Sounds like Psalms. "The depth closed me round about, the weeds were wrapped around my head," etc., etc. "And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited Jonah upon the dry land." Right? All right. So that's the story of Jonah, the main part, that we all are talking about. And the reason you asked, I think, Squiffy Bear, about the allegorical representation of Jonah in the belly of the whale. So in the sense of allegory, yes. So I will do this. Let's go back to where we search for Jonas, because for some reason in the New Testament, that's how the translators wrote Jonah's name. In Matthew 12:39, a certain of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, "Master, we would see a sign from you." We want a sign. And he answers and says to them, "An evil and adulterous generation seeks a sign, and there will be no sign given to it but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation." Ah, interesting. "And shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonas. Behold, a greater than Jonas is here." I mean, really, Squiffy Bear, this is Christ telling these scribes and Pharisees, literally, that he is the Jonah. And so what I would say about the story of Jonah, is it allegory? In a sense. In the same sense, though, that the law, the Mosaic law, was an allegory of Christ's coming. And in the same way that the 40 years in the wilderness before coming into the promised land for the Israelites was the same as the 40 years before Christ came in the clouds in 70 AD and then took all the saints to heaven. Okay? So it was 100% real. Jonah was literally swallowed by a fish, probably a whale-ish type fish, whale or something like that. Which by the way, most of you probably know this, but there has been accounted records of different people throughout history that have been swallowed by an animal like that and lived in there for days, over a day, and come out and been okay. It has happened. Their eyes are usually messed up and they're usually like totally pale because the digestive fluid inside the whale. But they can do it. They can live because there's air in there. The animal breathes. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, I think it is both 100% historically accurate, and it is also 100% a representation, an echo that God placed in history of his coming Messiah, of Jesus Christ. And Jesus calls it out right here in Matthew 12 and says exactly that he is the new Jonah, and that these scribes and Pharisees, being evil and wicked and asking for a sign, and not only that, they were wicked for many reasons, but that they would not be given any sign except that the Messiah was going to die and raise again in front of their faces, and they were going to have to deal with it. And in general, it sounds like the scribes and Pharisees did not deal with it well. And they doubled down on their Babylonian roots, is what it sounds like. Yeah. So that's how I see that. Now, there was something else that ran across my brain as I was talking there. I may have lost it. But Squiffy Bear, does that answer kind of what you were thinking of talking about there? Is there anything else in regards to that? I want to make sure I don't miss anything. It is interesting to me always when I read this thing about the men of Nineveh would rise in judgment. Now, when does that happen? Well, that's when Christ's kingdom starts. That the men of Nineveh who Jonah was sent to proselytize, they became God followers and righteous, that they then died, went to Hades, and were awaiting the resurrection so they would then be taken to heaven to judge this wicked generation, the wicked Israelites. That to me brings a lot of it full circle too, doesn't it? I'm getting goosebumps talking about that, but do you see how God's hand through history is so incredible? And start to finish, he knew and figured everything. Not that he had to figure it out. He was the author of history, and it weaves such a beautiful picture. I mean, it's incredible what he did. And the same thing happens here with the story of Jonah, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. All right. I think we'll move forward then. John Jones, I see your question there. Can I explain the 0 to 999 first day and the 5,000 to 6,000 sixth day millennia? Let me just take it down, John, because we've got a full list here. I'll take it down in my notes though, so that I can. I think that a lot of people on that particular thing get a little confused because the 6,000 years is from 5,001 to 6,000. It's just like when you're talking about centuries. The 15th century is the 1400s, right? So, yeah, that's just the way it works. Did I even say it right? The 6,000 years is from 5,001 to 6,000. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, don't let that confuse you. Some people, it's like, and it works on your brain a little bit. All right. Okay, let's go to our next topic so we don't get too far behind here. Big boy, if you said, this is amazing. I love this. You asked a really good question last week, big boy, I think you did. Does that even fit on my screen? Let's see here. No, it does not. What would you say to if you had a chance? I'll put it this way. This will fit my screen. It kind of says the same thing. What would you say to the governor if you had a chance? Now, guys, by the way, this is not necessarily a biblical topic, but I've always said that's okay. This doesn't always have to be about biblical topics if you don't want it to. I'm really here for you guys. So this is cool. I'm glad that you brought this, big boy, and I'll certainly try to... Now, big boy, maybe you could clarify. I see what you said there. You said Jesus says not to worry. But what are you thinking? Are you thinking more of a spiritual sense or of a society sense, a secular sense? What would be your kind of goal? Are you talking about trying to tell him about God? Or are you trying to talk to him about what you think he should do in his office, I guess is what my question is to you then. So if you can put that in the chat, then I'll try to answer from that perspective. Because if I had 20 minutes in front of my governor, I don't know that I would use much of that time personally to talk about God necessarily, other than weaving God into my conversation because he's a part of our lives. So see you later, Grace Bear, Annie. It's good to have you this morning. I'm glad you were able to join for a little while. No problem at all. But yeah, I can think of a lot of things that I would want to say to my governor if I had the chance. Now, I live in a more conservative state in general. Not real conservative, but somewhat. More than like New York. And okay, so big boy, you say you want him to know there is an authority above him and to govern justly. Sort of like early Christians did when speaking to emperors, I guess. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. It might be different than what I would say to my governor then. My governor has done a pretty somewhat good job of... Our governor specifically done a pretty good job of towing the line in a lawful kind of sense. Although he, to me, walks both sides a little bit. In general, the results have been very conservative and good. So I've been pleased so far when I compare to some of the other states and how other states are being run. I feel like ours is pretty good. But yeah, I think that it's hard, Big Bear, because you want to say things to the governor. You probably want to say things to the governor that with a normal person, you need to build rapport with, right? To be able to say those things. Like to say things like, you're wrong about how you're doing this thing or that thing. Generally, and you need to follow God. You need to be aware of the hand of God in the way you dispense justice and the way you make decisions in this office. With most people, to say things like that, you need some kind of rapport with them, right? So it's tough. It's a little tough. But I think that, a governor being used to hearing from all sorts of people all the time, that he will understand if you have some things on your heart, but then maybe that's the way you come at it. It's like, I have things on my heart for you, governor, and I am a Christian. And so you can imagine that's the roots of my soul, is my connection to God, my belief in him, my relationship with him. And I believe you are under his authority as well. And that we all together have to have a law-abiding society. And it has to be the rule of law. And our laws in this country have to do with the will of the people. And being that as it is, the will of the people is that there is law and that things are done correctly. So I think that's a good basis to start a conversation on. Maybe helps him ease into it without saying, God hath declared that you are in judgment. Yeah, so there's multiple ways to approach that, I guess, is what I'm saying. But any way you can make him feel as comfortable with you as fast as possible, it will only go that much further to helping him listen to you as far as what you're going to tell him. And I mean, I can only assume I know what you're going to tell him, but as far as Christians are concerned, we have very specific, usually, things that are important. For instance, we reject LGBTQ and all that comes with that. We reject transgenderism. We reject homosexuality. We reject lawlessness of people on our streets. We reject, you name it, abortion. We reject this decadence that's destroying our society. So there's so many of those things that, in the end, we are going to give an account for. Maybe that's the way you go at it with him. And it's like, you're going to give an account at some point. It may not be right now, but it may come. It'll come where you give an account for what you've done here. And if lawlessness is allowed to prevail in our state, then we hold you personally responsible for that. So will God. So maybe that's kind of a way to talk about that. I'm sure when people watch this live stream back too, they're going to cut out the last 5 or 10 seconds of what I just said and all that stuff I just mentioned. Linda Connor, you say when you took the position of commissioner, you took an oath and swore to God with your hand raised. That's a good thing to mention too, big boy. I think Linda's hit it on the head there. That's good. His oaths have to do with our Constitution and our God, and so before both of those authorities, he is subject. So, yeah, I think that's a great comment, Linda. Rafa Sieber, you say if you want to make a difference, need to generate an impact. For that, you need to know who he is and agree with Bible Scribe. Listen to your heart and pray to God for guidance. Yeah, all that's going to be good. Stacia, you say Scripture says not to swear an oath, but to make sure your yes is yes and your no is no. Oath taking is a red flag to me. Yeah. Well, yeah, I get it. I get it. But he did take an oath. He did. So hold him to it. I hope it helps, big boy. It's not much, but it's something to think about. Try to establish a rapport with him. That's the thing you always need to do in short conversations, is somehow try to establish a little bit of a rapport or credibility before you lay into somebody on anything, which I don't know that you're going to lay into him, but talk about his accountability. That's a big deal. So I'm sure that you will do your best and it will be great. Actually, I'm not worried for you, but it's something we can pray about if you'd like us to, big boy. I would definitely do that. All right. Then Laura Masood has the last topic of the day, and it's a doozy. How should we live when our society is being destroyed all around us? And it's kind of related to some of the things I think, big boy, that you'll talk about with your governor there. So how do we live when it's falling down around us? Laura, it's such a difficult topic, and it's something I hope that people will just share in the comments, what your thoughts are on this, everybody. But I'll say this right now is really hard for me. Like I wouldn't say I'm depressed, but I've been battling. There's days where I'm so upset about what's happening that I can't think very straight. I can't I don't have any motivation. So just please know that we're all in this together. We're all in it together, and it's not easy for any of us. I try to obviously portray a very stable, consistent persona to you guys, but I'm human like the rest of you, and these things affect me. When I see half of Texas, well, not half of Texas, but 1 million acres at this point burning in flames, that didn't just happen. That's not just some accident that, oh, oops, there's a huge fire that took over half the state today in Texas. Right after the border arguments between Greg Abbott and Joe Biden, bullcrap. It's a showdown is what it is. It's a battle going on in front of your eyes. And most people are too asleep to know what's happening, not even paying attention. They're like, oh, that's just coincidence. There's always wildfires all over the place. No, not like this. This is now the biggest wildfire in the history of the state of Texas. So it's hard. That's all I'm trying to say is it's not easy right now. And it's not easy also because you don't know what's coming, right? You don't know what's coming. Someone said live off grid. Well, that's fine. That's fine. But there isn't. I don't know if there's anywhere far enough off grid you can live to where you won't be found if this country goes into the wrong hands. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I've heard this said from people that are in the know also, that there's nowhere you're going to hide. Going off grid will help for a little while, and in the end, everyone will be in the same boat. All right? Nobody's going to escape. So, although, don't get me wrong, I think being off grid or, growing your own food, all that stuff is great. It's a great practice. It's a good thing. It's more healthy, etc., etc. There's so many good things about all that. So don't let me discourage you. But I'm just saying, if the country doesn't get fixed, your little old farm, that's 20 miles outside the city isn't going to last. It's not going to last. Nobody's going to be creating any communes and then defending themselves with, ARs against a rogue government. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What we have to worry about right now is that the illegal invasion of our borders is becoming red alert level. I mean, it's really way past that probably. The good news is that they're being distributed to select parts of the country, not everywhere. So all I can say about that is there's probably going to be a lot of chaos that ensues in the near future, especially towards the election. These people are being imported for a reason. And there will be ways to avoid that chaos in some regard. But it is going to be... it's going to be it's going to be bad for our country in this year. It's going to be bad for our country this year. And you better really hope that there's some really good people out there that are the ones fighting these people so that in the end we can flip this thing around. Because if that doesn't happen, nobody's little farm is going to save them. Nobody's commune in the Ozarks is going to save them. In the end, it may take some time, but all of us will fall to a foreign invasion if it occurs. So I just want to say that the fight is now. The fight is up to us. The fight is part of why I'm doing this channel, by the way. Do you understand that? I hope you do. It's to fight against the blindness, the influence, the blinders that have been on everyone for so long. To me, that's part of it, and just the fact that I get to talk about God each week is a blessing to me, and that's part of this. But there's other things, of course, you guys know I've done lots of other work that It has to do with this fight for information. And the reality is the people that we are fighting now, information and understanding and knowledge is the only way we can wage a war at this point. Do you understand that? Like, you going out in the street with a gun is not going to win anything. Unless, be aware of the chaos that may ensue in the next few months, but it will be localized and it will be in a few different places around the country. So be aware of that. But I'm just saying, in general, the way that these evil powers are defeated is by information and knowledge and understanding, and being aware of what they're doing. We're all aware of what they're doing now, so they can't do it in the dark anymore. It is all going to be, as my opinion, that it'll all be prevented at some point. It is only a matter of time now. And that time is difficult. So you're talking to the guy who's looking at the bright side of things. There's a lot of people that look at the dark side of things. But I do not believe that God will allow this world to plunge into chaos. I do not believe that is true. So anyway, I hope that helps. Rafa, you said we're all struggling. Yeah, we got to focus on the good things. Yeah. Laura, you say that Ezekiel 9 says that God looks for those who lament. He puts his mark of protection on them and destroys those who don't care. I love that. It's good. Yeah. I hope it helps. I know that there's a lot of opinions out there about the current state of things. I could go into lots of detail on that, but I've done some of that before. It tends to make people angry or divided. I think that we need, in this time, to do our best with what we have. I think a little preparation is in order, which I feel I've done a good bit of that. And I feel like I am able to take care of my family in case of some situations, not all situations. But prayer and what we're doing on here every week, and focus on God is good, because in the end, if these factions of our government and the intelligence agencies and the good guys and the bad guys, if they battle it out and there's an opportunity in the end, then we need to have our heads on straight as Christians in the world going forward. We need to be able to guide and lead and have the knowledge and the understanding of our own religion and our own scriptures that's correct, so that we can guide others. And so that's part of what we're doing here. I feel like we're building a church that will last through this. We're building a group of people that are going to last through this nasty process that we're inside of, and that we will come out the other side 100 times better than most, because it's going to shatter so many people's realities that they'll question everything and they'll go looking, and you know what? They're going to find us at the end of that rope. They're going to find us. That's what I hope. And some of you have already come here because of that kind of a search, that kind of a journey. And I appreciate that. I mean, I had the same journey. It's just for some reason, God made mine, I think, a little earlier than some, where I've now, been doing this for years. But I don't know. That's just how I think about it. That's how my mindset works. So it's hard. It's hard even for me. I just want you to know that it's not easy. It's not easy for any of us. So stay close. All right. Let's pray for each other. Stay in touch and stay tuned. It's going to be crazy, because snakes that are cornered lash out. When you corner a snake, it's going to find a chance to strike, and it will continue to do so until it is either dead or it gets away. And so that's what we're seeing right now. The snake is lashing out because it's in its death throes, as far as I'm concerned. And the wickedness that has ruled this world now for centuries is about to get utterly annihilated, in my opinion. Jacob Rothschild died the other day. I mean, what can you say? We should have a party. Amen to that. See, there's good things happening. There's good things happening. What can I say? Whew. I agree, Squiffy Bear. Pray, pray, pray. Pray, pray. I appreciate you, Squiffy. I agree wholeheartedly with you. I'm so glad you're on that page with me. Well, guys, I think that's about it. We can go further, but I'll get in trouble. You guys are awesome. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. And I will be praying for you guys this week. I hope you'll do the same. If you do think of any other prayer requests, throw them on the chat real quick before we end up here, and I'll get them to my prayer group for sure. We'll do that. If you're struggling with depression, it's an easy time to struggle with that kind of a thing. It's an easy time. There's so much crazy news, crazy things going on. But tell us that, tell us it's a struggle. I need prayer, and we'll do it. So, Francois, appreciate you. Thank you for your comment there. Appreciate it, man. It's good to have you this morning. All right, guys. Josh in, good morning to you. It's good to have you. A few of you guys jumped in during the thing here, and I didn't get a chance to say hi, but I appreciate each and every one of you every week. So, thank you guys so much. God bless you, and may the Lord keep you safe until next week.